Fair use, fair use, fair use. I hope that Ronald Neal does not give me a copyright strike. Woo! The math professor is in the house. Brothers, we got to talk tonight. We got to talk tonight. I had to go back into the archives, my brothers. I had to go back into the archives. If you are not subscribed to the Mad Professor channel, if you are not subscribed to Ronald Neal, I need y'all to subscribe. Y'all share, y'all like, and subscribe. I had to do this, man. I had to go back. I had to go back. I had to go back and pull up old commentary, because I've talked about Shannon Sharpe before, and I did talk about Shannon Sharpe today, and we're going to talk about Steve Harvey. We're going to talk about it tonight. Who is winning? Who is winning? Shannon Sharpe got over 1 million subscribers, man. When I made this video, Shannon Sharpe was just getting started. He was just getting started on Club Shay Shay. I knew that Club Shay Shay was going to blow up. I knew that Club Shay Shay was going to explode. And my predictions about Club Shay Shay have come to fruition. He's one of the livest unmarried black men, high status, high value black men on social media. Let's go. I don't have any alcohol in this video. I'm not smoking. I'm not drinking. I am absolutely sober. But I got me a little drink tonight. I got me a little drink tonight. What's going on, brothers? What's going on? What's going on? Welcome to the Mad Professor broadcast. Ebony K. Williams, where you at? Ebony K. Williams, brothers. Hey, I know y'all seen everything that's been going on. I know you guys saw Ebony K. Williams. Ebony K. Williams of the Real Housewives fame. Ebony K. Williams, the woman, the black woman, the so-called high-value black woman who has basically said to all of us, particularly the working class black men, that you are nothing. You are beneath her. Ebony K. Williams says, black man, if you are not making more than $100,000, if you are not a proverbial high value man, if you don't have resources, if you don't have the ability to lead, Ebony K. Williams says that you are beneath her. But you notice that she's all by herself. Do you notice that Ebony K. Williams is all by herself? and my man Shannon Sharpe, guess what? He is all by himself. What's going on? Let's get this thing going, baby. Put one in the chat if you can hear the video. Let me know if you can hear the video. Let me know if you can hear the video, guys. Let me know. 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 Put one in the chat if you can hear the video. No video. Y'all can't hear me. Y'all can't hear me. Y'all can't hear me. All right. Okay. All right. All right. All right. All right. All right. You know what? That's all right, brothers. That is all right. Y'all can't hear the video. Let me see what is going on. You can't hear the video. That's don't worry about it. You know what? We gonna rock this thing acapella style. We're gonna rock this thing acapella style. What's going on? The man professor's in the house. What's happening, brothers? What's happening, brothers? What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? I hope that you guys are doing well on this Wednesday night. It is May the 5th. This is the first week of May. The third day in the first week of May 2023. And we are going to talk tonight, guys. And listen, brothers, listen. The video that I wanted to play to you, I tried to do that on my end. I'm not going to waste a whole bunch of time trying to get the sound and the audio and everything like that. I'm just going to talk to y'all. Guys, you know, it's over a year ago. This video was almost 2 years old, man, and I created it as I started my channel, and it was a response to Shannon Sharpe. And Shannon Sharpe did a video. Y'all know who Shannon Sharpe is, man. Shannon Sharpe is a black man who was in his 50s. He's a black man who was an NFL Hall of Famer, a black man who has achieved lots of success in the world of professional sports, football, and in particular. And Shannon Sharpe did the interview. You guys can go back and y'all can Google the interview that he did, where he talked about his status as a single man, and he talked about what it was like for him to be a bachelor, what it's like for him to be a bachelor, what it's like to be a man who has never been married, a man who enjoys his life as an unmarried man, and a man who basically says that he, you know, when he did this video, it was clear that Shannon Sharpe had gone through some serious situations with the opposite sex, to the degree that he had to sit back and he had to stop and reassess his relationships. And when you listen to that old video that he did, it was called the Popcorn Podcast. I don't know if that Popcorn Podcast is still alive. I don't know if it's still there. But basically what he said was that he grew tired of being a utility. He grew tired of it. He didn't want to be a utility. Shannon Sharpe basically said that he cannot enter into a relationship with a woman who essentially brings absolutely nothing to the table. She essentially brings absolutely nothing to the table. And if she does bring anything, and she doesn't bring it to the table, If she does bring anything, all she brings are open hands. Open hands. She is someone who was looking for a stimulus package, a high value stimulus package, someone who was going to spend lots of money on her, someone who was going to elevate her without her putting in any type of investment, someone who is going to be a codependent, someone who is going to basically look at him as an ATM, an endless well in terms of resources, in terms of prestige, in terms of everything he brings to the table and at the level of status. That's basically what Shannon Sharpe had to say. And let me say this, guys. When I did that video back in 2021, when I did that video, this is when Kevin Samuels was still doing his thing, and Kevin Samuels was rising and he was growing. Y'all put 2 in the chat if y'all can hear me loud and clear. Put 2 in the chat if y'all can hear me loud and clear. I was a bit sober. When I did that video, I was very sober. I didn't have any drink. I didn't have no drink. I didn't have a cigar. No cigar, no cigars, no cigar. I brought the cigars in later. I brought the cigars in later. But I am gonna say to y'all that, you know, there's some videos I did early on. My short uploads. I had a little bit of drink in me. I had a little bit of drink in me. Woo! What's going on? Thank you for that, brothers. Thank you for that. I see all you brothers in the house. I see Spinks Man, NVA, B. Atkins, what's going on? Mulatto Vanguard, Kasim Ram, what's going on? Muhajid the Magnificent, David the Man is in the house. We see you, Christopher Clipper. I see you, my brother. I see you, my brother. I see all the brothers in the house, man. Good to see all you guys. Sama 66. That's right. That's right. Yeah, I was stone cold sober when I did that particular video. Stone cold sober. Y'all know what time it is. I told you guys when I come on YouTube, I don't care about appearances. I don't care about airs. I don't care about getting on CNN. I don't care about getting on MSNBC or what have you. I don't care about any of those things. I don't care about being on Fox News. I don't care about being on whoever has 5 million subscribers. I don't care about being on their podcast. No, I don't. Now, if they want to invite me on there, I will gladly oblige them if the situation is right. If the situation is right, if the conversation is good, if the content is robust enough, I will join people. On their podcast for the conversation. But other than that, when y'all come and y'all hear the Man Professor, you getting the Man Professor raw. You are getting. Let me show my face, man. When y'all come to the Man Professor broadcast, you get the Man Professor raw. You get the Man Professor live. You get the Man Professor uncut, raw, live, and uncut. That's why I like this medium in terms of social media. That's why I like it, because I get to control it. This is not corporate controlled. This is not controlled by anybody's politics. I don't have a dozen producers. I don't have 10, 15, 20 people looking over my shoulder telling me how to look, how to sound, instructing me. I don't have all that kind of stuff. This is me raw and in effect live for you guys. And yes, I give it to you guys live. I live out loud. My philosophy is one of living out loud. Those of you, some of you guys who have followed me, some of you guys came over here from Facebook. And if you came over here from Facebook, when I used to do stuff on Facebook, I talked about living out loud. Living out loud. That means bringing your total self to the enterprise of life, your total self, and to be untamed and to be unrestricted. And we operate this way here on this channel: untamed, unrestricted, unedited, live and raw in your faith, and in your face, and we deal with whatever consequences may come. So back to the subject matter at hand. Kevin Samuels at the time when I did that video was doing his thing, and Kevin Samuels was pushing the whole idea of marriage, and myself, me, and a whole bunch of other people, many of us in the manosphere, the black manosphere had articulated perspectives about men and women that were deeply critical of the institution of marriage and everything. And we were also, those of us in the Black manosphere, thinking about and talking about what it means to be a Black man who is able to exist in this context, the American context, the Western context, as independent agents. And Kevin Samuels, and I appreciate my brother, I appreciate his legacy and all that he's done. And I'm gonna share something with you guys. I was asked, I participated in a conversation which should be aired maybe sometime this week. I don't know if it's up, but Revolt TV asked me to participate in a conversation about Kevin Samuels. 1 year later, it was Revolt TV that is owned. Well, I think it's owned. I think it's owned. I think it's owned by Sean Diddy Combs. I think that it's owned by Sean Diddy Combs. That's what I think. That's what I think. That's what I think. I was asked by the Revolt people to come talk about Kevin Samuels with some other people. It was me along with another guy who does relationships content across social media. Okay. And so I haven't checked their platform to see if they have aired their broadcast, but I just want you to know that I did have this conversation because Kevin Samuels is still very much in the air. His legacy is alive and well. You've got, again, we've gone through this dust up with Pearly Things, Miss Pearly Things, and you have all these other people who took Kevin's model and they ran with it. They tried to amplify it in terms of panels and everything. The Peef, Let's Talk, the Rap Crew, you name it. Everybody wants to talk about relationships. All these, some people call them purple pill, but I call them blue pill. You got a whole bunch of blue pill people out here talking about relationships and marriage and what men are supposed to do, what women are supposed to do, what men are not doing, what women are not doing, and all that kind of stuff. All these people are out there. They're out there. And y'all know who they are because it's all over social media, especially Black social media. Okay. And it seems to me that it's going to be there for a long time. And even Iyanla Van Zant, she's back into the fray with her most recent conversation with the lawyer, Miss Thang. Miss Thang, the lawyer, Miss Thang. We're going to call her Miss Thang. What's up, old man? Where is Obsidian Momia Ali? Y'all go back into the Obsidian files, the Obsidian archives, and y'all go back to 2016 and 2017 when Momia Ali did a whole bunch of videos on a lawyer by the name of Sophia A. Nelson, a woman who we accurately described as a spinster, a woman who sees herself as only apropos for quote unquote high value men. And so you have this other woman right now who's in her 40s. She just turned 40, named Ebony K. Williams, and everybody's talking about Ebony K. Williams and what she said about Black men, particularly working Black men. But what she said about working class Black men was offensive to men in general because she just basically devalued men in her comments about men. Okay. But here's the point. Shannon Sharpe had this conversation. What's happening? Shannon Sharpe had this conversation with Steve Harvey. Some of y'all have already seen it by now. That's why we're here. And what I want to do, hopefully, I don't want to spend too much time in terms of my monologue or what have you. I'm very interested in what you guys have to think. Y'all know what time it is. I'm the man professor. Cash App $sign BMI 3000. Cash App $sign BMI 3000. And y'all can hit the super chat if you want to. Hit that super chat. Y'all share, y'all like, and you subscribe. You see the title, Steve Harvey, Shannon Sharpe. Who's really winning? Who's really winning? So on one end of the spectrum, you have Shannon Sharpe, this very, very successful Black man who became successful in the world of sports, football in particular, and sports broadcasting, a man who's never been married, he has children and everything. And on the other hand, you have Steve Harvey. We don't have to explain who Steve Harvey is. But everybody now is talking about this interview that was conducted by Shannon Sharpe in relationship to Steve Harvey. And we're talking about a man who has been married. Steve Harvey, a man, a comedian, a man who is, yes, traditionally, proverbially successful, the high value man, a man who has been married not once, not twice, a man who is now on his third marriage, a man on his third marriage, a man who he's had two failed marriages, two failed marriages. He has produced children as a consequence of that marriage. He married a woman. He married a woman who already had children. He married a woman who has a very, very interesting background in terms of her own life and in terms of her relationships and in terms of the type and quality of relationships that she's had. Let's just put it out there. Marjorie Harvey, Steve Harvey's wife, she's a former trap queen. She's a former trap queen. And you guys know that we've talked a lot about trap queens in this thing called the Black Manosphere. We've talked a whole lot about them. We've talked a lot about those alpha widows. The alpha widows. Y'all know about the alpha widows. Y'all know about the alpha widows. You know about those women who attach themselves to those high risk black men. Those black men who gamble with their lives. Those black men who gamble with their lives to the point of death, those black men who gamble with their lives to the point of being incarcerated for decades, if not indefinite incarceration. Hell, and at worst, who've gambled with their lives to the point of being sent to death row. She is your proverbial trap queen. And Steve Harvey is, as you all know, an entertainer who has an interesting life, to say the least. An interesting life, to say the least. Let me say something to you guys. Let me say something to you guys. So, in these spaces, especially with black men and the black manosphere and what have you, and the other sphere in general, there's always a lot of talk about men being successful, how to become successful, working hard, being disciplined, that sort of thing, being wise about your investments, being about, the quote unquote bag, and being about your money and your business and all that kind of stuff. There's so many people who have dedicated their lives to talking about how a man should become successful. It's all over the place, and in relationship to that, we're in a space where you have a whole bunch of gurus. You have people, particularly men, who sell the idea of success, how to become a millionaire, how to level up, how to 10x your life. You got your Grant Cardone guys, Grant Cardone. You get all your Grant Cardone guys. You got your Earn Your Leisure guys, and all this kind of stuff. People who, let's call them what they are. We'll call them kind of like venture capitalists. Venture capitalists. And these are guys who maximize risk. You maximize risk. That's what it is. In order to be successful in relationship to the formulas that they give you, you have to be a risk taker. You have to be a gambler. A gambler. And your gambling doesn't quite guarantee that you're going to see a return on what you do at the casino. There's no guarantee. But although there's no guarantee, you gamble anyway. And here's the thing, guys. We're talking about Shannon Sharpe. We're talking about Steve Harvey. These guys work in the realms of sports and entertainment. Let us be clear. Let it be made clear. Let it be made clear that these men, Shannon Sharpe and Steve Harvey, do not represent. Here's the thing. These men do not represent the majority of men. They do not represent the majority of men in terms of so called gambling and success, in terms of venture capitalism. Venture capitalism. What do I mean by that? What do I mean by that? You know, if you look at the NCAA, if you look at the NCAA, you look at college football, you look at college basketball, you look at Division 1 basketball, Division 1 football. You look at what's going on there, and you look at what's above Division 1 football, which is professional sports. That is the National Football League, the NFL, and then you have the National Basketball Association, the NBA. There are lots of talented black men who play football at the collegiate level. There are lots of talented black men who play basketball at the collegiate level as well, the NCAA. You have a whole bunch of guys who have the potential to be a LeBron James, the potential to be a Michael Jordan, the potential to be uh, whoever you want to think about, whoever you want to imagine, who is super successful right now. Dwayne Wade, I said Dwayne Wade. Whoever you think has the potential to be super successful. Okay, Lamar Jackson. We talking about football. Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson just signed a $250 million contract. This brother just signed a $250 million contract. So the vast majority of those black men who are in the Division 1 sector of the NCAA, the vast majority of them would never, ever, 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 even if they go into the National Basketball Association, even if they go into the NFL, the vast majority of them will never reach the status of a Lamar Jackson. They would never do that. They would never reach the status of a Kyrie Leonard. They would never reach their status. Okay, and what is true about football and basketball is also true about entertainment. And we talk about entertainment. Steve Harvey is a comedian. Steve Harvey is in that world of television and radio and stuff like that. And we talk about entertainment. You got your guys who are in rap. You got your guys who act. You have your actors. You got your Michael B. Jordan. And you even have somebody like a Jonathan Majors, someone like Jonathan Majors who is going through hell right now. Jonathan Majors, those guys, Jonathan Majors is going through hell right now. But there are very, 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 very few men, black men in particular, who are able to find themselves in that rarefied air. Rarefied air. Those guys gamble. They gamble. A lot of those guys gamble. A lot of those guys, when you talk about their success, you can't just look at. Here's the thing: you can't just look at talent. They're talented to be sure. There are lots of talented people. You can't just look at talent. There are a lot of talented people who don't become super millionaires. There are a lot of talented people who don't become um, super celebrities. There are a lot of talented people whose faces never, become the marketing tools for major corporations, Nike, Adidas, you name it. They never become spokespersons for major brands, Hanes and Coca Cola, Bud Light, all those other things. There are a whole bunch of guys who never reach that level. They don't reach that level. And when you look at these men, when you look at these I'm going to call them uber successful men. These men are who they are because of a combination of things. It ain't just talent. It ain't just talent by itself. Talent does a lot. Hard work does a lot. It is hard work, but it's not just hard work by itself. It's not just talent. Here's the thing, brothers. It's not just talent. It's not just hard work. It's a variety of things. It's opportunity. It's being at the right place at the right time. It's having the right connections or knowing the right people. It's just a it's a matter of shooting the crap, of shooting craps. It's a matter of rolling the dice, rolling the dice, rolling the dice. And I'm gonna tell you guys, I sat back and I watched Club Shay Shay. I watched Club Shay Shay, guys. And I was listening to Steve Harvey. And I listened to his story. And Steve Harvey is a 67-year-old black man. 67-year-old black man. He's not a spring chicken. This is a man who is pushing. This man is pushing 70. Steve Harvey is pushing 70. Okay? And his road to fame, Steve Harvey's road to fame, his road to success, his road to wealth was a very difficult road. A very difficult road. It's a and I'm going to call it a black man's road. It's a black man's road. And what do I mean by that? Steve Harvey did not really get his first shot in terms of what he wanted to be as an entertainer, as a comedian, until he was damn near 40 years old. 40 years old. He began his comedic journey. He began this comedic journey when he was in his early 20s. And he struggled between his early 20s until his late 30s to land the type of opportunities that would put him in a position to be where he is right now. I'm listening to Steve Harvey talk, and y'all have heard his story before, and he tells the story all again. This man, he was married young in his 20s. He could barely take care of his wife and his children. This guy worked all types of odd jobs as he pursued his passion for entertainment, his passion for comedy. This is a man who lost his marriage in the process. This is a man who's experienced homelessness in the process. This is a man who has dealt with many, many, many obstacles to what ultimately became success. And there was no guarantee whatsoever. There was no guarantee based on the type of risk taking that he was doing. There was no guarantee whatsoever that he would become the man that he is today. And in the process of becoming who he is at this particular time, he experienced devastation, major losses. And the biggest losses, to his own admission, the biggest losses that he experienced on his road to the riches, on his road to becoming wealthy, the biggest losses that he experienced occurred in the terrain of marriage. His biggest losses were losses in terms of who he married. What's going on? The kosher clinician is in the house. What's going on? Good to see you, my brother. Good to see you, my brother. I don't know how much time you have. I don't know how much time you have, but I'm going to extend the olive branch to the brothers after I do this monologue. So if you want to join us, you can. If you want to, my brother. Thank you for that. We appreciate the support. The coach, the clinician is in the house. That's my man right there. Me and coach, the clinician, we be chopping it up. We be chopping it up, y'all, about all these things. Peace and blessings to my brother. Big losses. This man has lost money. This man was homeless. This man slept in his car. This is a man who has been swindled. This is a man who has been swindled by an ex-wife, a man who has been swindled by accountants and business associates, a man who has lost millions because of bad decisions. And his marriages, his failed marriages. Now he says he's happy that he has children. You know, he has children out of as a result of the marriage that he had. He has children. He has children. And I hear men say that. I hear men say that whenever I talk to divorced men, whenever I talk to divorced men will always say, well, I may have lost my finances, I may have lost A, B, C, D, and E, but I have to confess that I was given children in the process. I was given children. So my children were the redeeming things associated with those quote unquote failed marriages, having children. I've heard that story too many times. Too many times, guys. But let's get into this, guys. Let's get into this, guys. Steve Harvey is an old school black man. Let's just go there. He is an old school black man. He is an old school black man. Steve Harvey represents a model of masculinity, which I'm going to say right now is totally obsolete. It is totally obsolete. When Steve Harvey talks about who he is as a man, when he talks about his efforts at being a married man, at being a husband, at being a father, when he talks about those things, when he talks about his marriage now to Marjorie Harvey, when he talks about his marriage now, he talks about it in relationship to how he was raised, how he was socialized, how he grew up. He talks about it in relationship to a particular type of black man, a particular type of black man that no longer exists. He talks about his father. He talks about his daddy. His daddy. And we talking about old school Southern. Here's the thing. These are old school Southern black men, old school black patriarchs. Old school black patriarchs. Old school. Got the drink. We got that drink. Y'all see that? Y'all see that right there? Old school black patriarchs. Did you guys see? Have you guys ever seen the film Fences? How many of you guys seen the film Fences? Fences. Denzel Washington took a play. Denzel Washington took a play that was authored by the playwright August Wilson called Fences. August Wilson grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. August Wilson grew up in Pittsburgh, and he tells the story of a man by the name of Troy Maxson. Troy Maxson. Y'all go back and watch Fences. And Fences is set in the 1950s. It's set in the 1950s in Pittsburgh. And Troy Maxson was what you call your proverbial blue-collar black man of his era. A proverbial blue-collar black man of his era. Didn't have lots of education. Came up hard. Worked long hours. Guy, you know, you talking about these are men who work like darn near 6 days a week. 6 days a week. They work not just 8 hours a day. Some of these guys work 9 hours a day. Some of these guys work 10 hours a day or what have you. They were the provider males, And he saw his whole role, his whole purpose in life, number one, was to take care of his wife and to take care of his children. That was Troy Maxson. And those men grew up in a world, those men, Troy Maxson, when you go back and you watch Fences, those men grew up in a world, and they grew up in a time when manhood, not just black manhood, but just manhood, period, manhood was about you working your butt off 6 days a week, 10 hours a day. Some of those guys work 7 days a week. Some of those guys work 7 days a week. I'll put out there. Some of those guys work 7 days a week. You took care of your wife and you took care of your children. That was your mission. That was your purpose in life. It was never questioned whatsoever. It was never questioned. Passport OG is in the house. What's going on? Good to see Passport OG. Class is in session. If you haven't seen the film Fences, y'all go back and see the film Fences. Because this is the type of manhood that shaped Steve Harvey. And those men were stoic. They were stoic men. They were stoics. Dr. Neal, what do you mean by that? These men, they did not, thank you, Passport OG, these men did not care about feelings. They didn't care about feelings. Oh my God. If you watch that film, Fences, there's a scene where Troy is having this conversation with his son. Troy Maxson is having a conversation with his son, and there's some tensions between he and his son. And his son feels that his daddy is unnecessarily harsh towards him. Because the son wants to play football. The son wants to play baseball. I'm sorry. The son wants to play baseball. The son wants to go into sports. And Troy Maxson is trying to teach the son some real lessons about the real world. that you need to be practical. You need to be practical. There are no guarantees in going into baseball. You can't put all your eggs into one basket. You can't put everything into baseball. There's a whole story there about baseball and sports and black men and all that kind of stuff, and the Negro leagues and all that kind of stuff. And Troy and his son can't understand the dynamic between himself and his father. And the son doesn't understand. There's some questions about the extent to which the son is loved by the father. Daddy, do you love me? 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 Do you care about me, Daddy? Do you care about me, Daddy? If you cared about me, Daddy, if you loved me, Daddy, you would allow me to do A, B, C, and D. Blah, 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 blah. In Troy and Maxon, there's a wonderful scene in Fences where Troy Maxon gives his son a lesson about what it means to be a father, what it means to be a father. And Troy Maxon basically tells his son, he says, listen, son, I do what I do in relationship to you. I provide for you. I take care of this household, not because I love you. This is Troy Maxon to his son. I am your father, not because I love you. Don't get it twisted. Me being your father has nothing to do with love. Me being your father and operating as a father has nothing to do with love. Me being a father has to do with the fact that I am responsible for you. My commitment to you has absolutely nothing to do with my feelings. My commitment to you has nothing to do with whether I care for you or not. My feelings mean nothing. I do what I have to do because I am your father and I have a duty to do what a father is supposed to do in relationship to a son because this is my duty. This is my job. Thank you, Sid. Thank you, Chemistry Ipmore. Thank you, Chemistry Ipmore. Good to see you. These were old school black men. These were old school black men. Old school black men. Their manhood had nothing to do with feelings. Their manhood was rooted in duty and obligation and responsibility. That was their manhood. You take care of the children that you have produced. You get a woman pregnant, you take care of those children. Your feelings have nothing to do with it. You get married to a woman, that woman is your responsibility. You take care of her. You taking care of her has nothing to do with your feelings. This is your duty. This is your obligation. And these were the traits. These were the traits that were associated and connected to being a man. Being a man. That you got up in the morning and you went to work. And that's what Troy was. You get up in the morning. Troy says, when I get up in the morning and go to work, I don't go to work because I feel like going to work. I get up and go to work. I get up and go to work because I have to go to work. It is my responsibility to go to work. It is my duty to go to work. That's why I get up in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, early in the morning. I get up and go to work because it is my responsibility. It is my duty to go to work. Because I have to provide for this family. I have to provide for my children. I have to provide for my wife. I have to keep a roof over all our heads. I have to put food on the table. This is my obligation. This is my duty. It is inescapable. This is what it means to be a man. Y'all go back and y'all watch Fences. So when you listen to Steve Harvey and you listen to what he says about his father, a Southern man, his father came from the South. Steve Harvey was born in Virginia. He was born in the rural South. He was born in the agrarian South. He was born when black people lived on farms and they had chickens and they had hogs. When black people, when people, not just black people, but when people, poor people in particular, they did not have toilets. They did not have indoor plumbing or what have you. These were people who lived very hard. They had no safety nets. And family meant everything. Family was key to survival. I don't mean to preach at y'all. I'm not preaching at you guys. I'm not preaching at you guys. I don't mean to preach. I'm setting this thing up. Steve Harvey is the product of a old school vision and model of what it means to be a black man. And his father and mother were married. And here's the thing, his mother was also a part of a generation where being a mother and being a wife came with duties, it came with responsibilities. Duties and responsibilities that were tied to being a mother and a wife, duties and responsibilities that were inescapable, duties and responsibilities that nobody questioned. They were accepted across the board. So when Steve Harvey was a boy, the type of masculinity that he was introduced to, the type of masculinity that was his teacher, was a kind of masculinity that was never questioned by anybody. It was never questioned. It was never questioned. There was no question about being married. There was no question about having kids. There was no question. Steve Harvey is 67 years old. When he talks about his daddy, he's talking about a time where nothing was questioned. I talked about this, guys. Some weeks ago when I talked about the free agent. If you guys have not seen the new free agent videos, I did two streams called the new free agents. 2 streams. And in those streams, I talked about Professor Scott Galloway at New York University. Professor Scott Galloway, who went viral on CNN because he was talking about a so-called manhood crisis. He was talking about a so-called crisis among young men, that young men have checked out, that young men are no longer following a traditional script or blueprint of masculinity, that young men are not getting married, they're not working the way men have worked in the past. These young men are no longer mules for society. They're no longer mules. And these young men are products of a completely new world, a completely new world that is radically different from the kind of world that produced Steve Harvey's father, the kind of world that produced Steve Harvey, the kind of world that produced Professor Scott Galloway at New York University. And if we're not talking about Scott Galloway at New York University, we are talking about Dr. Richard Reeves at the Brookings Institute, the author of the book of Boys and Men. Of Boys and Men. Why boys and men are falling behind and what we need to do about it. That's the subtitle of the book. Why boys and men are falling behind and what we need to do about it. And as I said to you guys on the last stream, people are dealing with this as a crisis of masculinity. That you have young men, Gen Zs are not following the old script anymore. They're not. Gen Zs no longer see masculinity in terms of obligation or duty. That is, you have an obligation to get married, you have an obligation to have children, you have obligation to take care of a wife and to take care of children. That this is your mission, this is your fundamental purpose in life, this is your reason for being. This way of masculinity, this past masculinity, is now obsolete. Dr. Thunder is in the house. Dr. Thunder is in the house. What's going on, Doc? Good to see you, my brother. Good to see you. Always good to see Dr. Thunder. Y'all support Dr. Thunder. Y'all support Thunder's Thoughts. Thunder's Thoughts. Y'all support Case Closed every Sunday. Every Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern. Y'all check out Case Closed. Guys. You've got Shannon Sharpe on one side, you have Steve Harvey on the other side. These guys are not far apart in age. Shannon Sharpe is like 57, Steve Harvey is 67. Shannon Sharpe is 57, Steve Harvey is 67. So they're not that far apart in terms of age. And when you go back and you watch that interview and you listen to Shannon Sharpe understands the type of manhood. Shannon Sharpe understands the kind of manhood that shaped Steve Harvey because Shannon Sharpe was raised by his grandparents. In particular, Shannon Sharpe was raised by his grandfather. His grandfather was an old school black man. His grandfather was the same type of old school black man that Steve Harvey's father was. Shannon Sharpe grew up in Savannah, Georgia. He's a Georgia boy, a Georgia boy. Thank you, Dr. Thunder. A Georgia boy, Shannon Sharpe, country boy. And man, if you listen to Shannon Sharpe says he grew up on a farm. Shannon Sharpe says that his grandfather drove them like they were slaves. Shannon Sharpe said those guys had to get up like at 5 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning. They had to deal with hogs. They had to deal with chickens. They had to cut the grass. They had to go out there. They had to cut lumber. They had to hunt. They had to fish. When you listen to Shannon Sharpe and he talks about his granddaddy and he talks about the kind of work that his granddaddy made that his granddaddy made Shannon do and his brother Sterling do, it's almost like he was describing slavery. Shannon Sharpe was like describing slavery. And there are a lot of black males who grew up in that era who experienced that. I'm a Floridian. I'm from Florida. I have roots in Florida and Georgia. My mother and my people and my family, they have southern roots. They have agrarian roots. I've heard those stories. I know about those stories of black people working on farms. And remember now, this is before affirmative action. This is before the welfare state. This is before the civil rights movement. This is before all the stuff that we take for granted right now. This is before globalization. This is before everything. And if you were a black male and you grew up on a farm and you had a granddaddy who also grew up on a farm or what have you, they worked your butt to death. And you learned all kind of values. We call it, in terms of Christianity, it's called the Protestant ethic. It is the Protestant ethic, the Protestant work ethic. Because these people were poor. They lived off the land. Here's the thing, they were poor and they lived off the land, hunting and fishing, chopping wood, cutting down trees and milking cows, all that kind of stuff. Dealing with hogs. That's right, Dr. Thunder. It was Calvinism. And it was very biblical. They were shaped, Dr. Thunder, they were shaped by a deeply conservative biblical worldview. If you don't work, you don't what? If you don't work, you don't eat. If you don't work, you don't eat. That's conservative Protestant religion. That is the Protestant work ethic. The Puritan work ethic. The Puritans, when you study the Puritans, the Puritans believed that the Puritans, the Anglos, the white people who came from England, the Puritans, they were dissenters from the Anglican Church. They came to the United States, these white people, these Anglos. We call it the Puritan. It is the Puritan Protestant ethic. And they believed that hard work came with rewards. That hard work came with rewards. Heavenly rewards. Heavenly rewards on earth. So Steve Harvey is a worker. He is a worker bee. He is a worker bee. I want to give a shout out to Pink Book Lessons. Pink Book Lessons did a very, very good video on Steve Harvey. Pink Book Lessons. And this recent interview that he had with Shannon Sharpe, Pink Book Lessons. And in that video, she talked about how Steve Harvey has lived his life as an employee. An employee. Somebody who works overtime, an employee. And she was absolutely right. Pink Book Lessons. Y'all go check out Pink Book Lessons. She talked about how Steve Harvey has lived his life as a high performing employee. That you outperform. What is a high performing employee? A high performing employee is basically somebody who outworks everybody. You outwork everybody. But here's the caveat. Being a high performing employee is not the same thing as being an owner. Let me say it again. Being a high performing employee is not the same thing as being an owner. Because the mindset of an employee and the mindset of an owner are two different mindsets. They're two different mindsets. Employees think one way in terms of working themselves to death to get a paycheck, to get a bag. The owner knows how to get the most out of an employee. The owner is a manager of the employee. The owner, if the owner is good, if the owner is highly competent, the owner is able to extract as much performance out of the employee so that the owner can get the most in terms of capital. And Dave DeMan, you're absolutely right. Employees have less risk than ownership. They have less risk. Employees have less risk. But when it comes to reaping the benefit of rewards, financial rewards, the one who takes the most risks is the one who's in a position to get the most reward. It's basic capitalism. It's basic capitalism, basic economics. Basic economics. Basic economics. Thomas Sowell. I've been reading Thomas Sowell. Thomas Sowell has a book called Basic Economics. I know y'all think that Thomas Sowell, some of y'all think Thomas Sowell is the boogeyman. Some of y'all don't like Thomas Sowell. A lot of people who don't like Thomas Sowell have not read Thomas Sowell. Thomas Sowell got a thick book. Thomas Sowell got a thick book just on economic principles. A thick book. Thomas Sowell got a thick book on a thick, damn near 500-page book on economic principles called Basic Economics. It has nothing to do with race. It has nothing to do with culture. It has everything to do with money and economy. One of these days, I might go through that here on this channel. It's one of the most readable books and digestible and understandable books on economics that you can find on the market, written by Thomas Sowell. Okay, whether you like him or not, economics is economics. The principles of economics defy ideology. It doesn't matter where you land on on the political spectrum. The principles of economics are in the West. They are the same. They have not changed in hundreds of years. They haven't changed. But here was the point. The point is that Steve Harvey, y'all share, y'all like, and subscribe. This is the Mad Professor broadcast. Cash App $ BMI 3000. Cash App $ BMI 3000. Cash App $ BMI 3000. Steve Harvey is the last of a dying breed. When Steve Harvey talks about his relationship, with his wife, his present wife, Marjorie Harvey, he talks about it as though his relationship to her And you can see this if you study them closely. He talks about it as though it is an employee-employer relationship. It is an employee-employer relationship. When you look at the interview, this is a man who has been married 2 times. He had 2 failed marriages. 2 failed marriages. Now, he had some economic success. He had some economic success up until the end of his last marriage, before Marjorie, Harvey. But he was devastated by a divorce. He was devastated. His second marriage devastated him financially. Not only did his second marriage devastate him financially, but he was also robbed because he was not paying attention to how his money was being managed by his financial managers. Steve Harvey allowed his financial managers to take advantage of him to the degree where he found himself indebted to the IRS. He had a financial manager, according to him, who did not pay his taxes when they were supposed to be due. 7 years without paying taxes. Now, here's the thing. Here's the thing. Steve Harvey tells the story. He says that he had a financial manager, let's say an accountant, who did not pay his taxes for 7 years. Steve Harvey says that he wrote checks. Steve Harvey says that he wrote checks to the IRS for 7 years straight, thinking that he was sending money directly to the IRS for 7 years. 7 years. And the IRS did not get the money. And the IRS came after him after 7 years. Now, and this is what he was going through his whole divorce. He was going through a divorce during this time and all this kind of stuff. In interviews, he said he owed, in other interviews, I've read other interviews where he said he owed the IRS $20 million. He owed the IRS $20 million. $20 million. He says that his financial troubles at the IRS happened. He discovered that some financial malfeasance had taken place after his accountant, his financial manager, had died. And all of this happened, all the while, as this happened, his wife had basically seized his assets through divorce and other means. Now, we got to put our hats on. We got to put our hats on. I have some questions about Steve Harvey's story. I've got some questions about Steve. I have some questions about Steve Harvey's story. Why do I have questions? Because how do you go? How is it that how is it that you don't pay? How is it that the IRS is able to allow you to not pay your taxes, if you're a millionaire, the IRS allows 7 years to go by without you paying taxes before they go after you to collect back taxes. So what it means is that the IRS waited 7 years to go after you. You're a multimillionaire. And they waited 7 years to collect $20 million from you. I got some questions about that. Anyway, I got some questions about that. But anyway, here's the thing, guys. Here's the thing. Steve Harvey has spent his life as a poor money manager. He is a man who has mismanaged money. Not only has he mismanaged money, he has mismanaged relationships. He has mismanaged a lot of things. And he wants to tell us, and he tells us that he was able to enter into a relationship with a woman, Marjorie, who is now Marjorie Harvey. And this is what he says on Club Shay Shay, that he entered into a relationship with a woman, a former trap queen, who became the conduit, who became the most pivotal component for the most successful chapter in his life. So when Steve Harvey gets with Marjorie, he owes the IRS $20 million. He has been devastated by a divorce. This is when he gets with her. Around 06, 07, what have you. He has less than $2,000 in the bank, liquid, less than $2,000 in the bank, according to him, liquid. And here's the story that he tells us. He says that at the moment that he married this woman, Marjorie Harvey, that he entered into a different chapter of prosperity. And this is when the Family Feud comes into play. When he does Family Feud, this is when he does Act Like a Man, Think Like a Woman, whatever that book is called. This is when he gets all these talk shows and everything like that. At the moment that he marries this woman. So basically he says once he married this trap queen, his financial portfolio expanded, his entire life changed. Thank you, Mr. Blue Collar. Thank you, Mr. Blue Collar. Once he married this woman. And when you listen to him talk on this interview, when you listen to Steve Harvey talk on this interview, it is clear that she is his boss. The way he talks about her, that she is his manager, that she is the reason for whoever he is right now. And he wants to tell us, here's the thing, guys. He wants to tell us, thank you, Mr. Blue Collar, for supporting the PhDs. He wants to tell us, y'all share, y'all like, and subscribe. He wants to tell us that we need a Marjorie Harvey. Steve tells us that we need to find us a trap queen, an ex-trap queen. And what is more, this man who has had failed marriages, and he admits to having failed marriages, he wants to tell us that these type of women are in abundance. He wants to tell us that if we want to be successful, that we have to have these type of women in our lives. That's what he wants to tell us. In this interview, Steve Harvey talks about women, and he's not very critical about the nature of women today. He's not very critical about the 21st century, 2023. He wants to tell us that we need to attach ourselves right now to this contemporary Western woman, that we cannot live without this Western woman, that we cannot be successful without this Western American woman. And that it is our job, here's the clincher, it is our job to take care of this Western woman. It is our job to take care of this American woman. And if this woman comes with children, we have to go overboard in taking care of her children. It is a man. These are his words, not my words. These are his words, not my words. That it is a man's duty, it is a man's obligation to take care of women and children. This is Steve Harvey. It is a man's duty and obligation to take care of women and children. Shout out to Nice Sometimes. Nice Sometimes says that simping and pandering get you paid. Lil Steve is in the likes of Oprah and Tyler. And so the black man out for a check. Marketing 1-on-1. 1-on-1, 101, 1-on-1, 101. You are absolutely right, my brother. You are absolutely right. You are absolutely right. Ghetto user, good to see you, my brother. Good to see you. Tuition scholars in the classroom. Absolutely right. Thank you. We appreciate all the support, brothers. Y'all support us. Cash App BMI 3000. Cash App BMI 3000. Cash App BMI 3000. The super chat. His father taught him. His father being influenced by the world that produced him, that it is his responsibility to take care, without any question, you take care of women and children, no question whatsoever. Shannon Sharpe is right there next to him. Shannon Sharpe is sitting right next to him and asking him questions. And Shannon Sharpe is like, well, what about the bras? What about the bras? What about the bras? The bras? What about the bras? What about the bras who object? What about the bras? What about the brothers who object? What about the brothers who object to this point of view? And Steve was like, I can only say what I know. I can only say what I know. And I can only say what I believe. I can only say what I know. I can only say what I believe. That's what Steve Harvey says to Shannon Sharpe. I can only say what I know, and I can only say what I believe. And this is what I believe. It is a man's job to take care of women and children. A man needs a woman, and a woman needs a man. And I'm saying to Steve Harvey, I say, Steve Harvey, Steve Harvey, I would agree with you. I would agree with you, Steve Harvey, if this was 1950. Steve, if we were living in 1950 and not 2023, I would agree with you, Steve. If we were living in 1960 and not 2023, Steve, I would agree with you. I would agree with you. But we are not living in 1950. We are not living in 1960. We are not living in 1970. Hell, we are not even living in 1980 when you were a full-blown adult. So you got two black men. You have Shannon Sharpe, who shows you a model. Shannon Sharpe has never, to our not, he ain't got no wife. This man has been a bachelor forever. He has a daughter. This man chose not to get married. This man went on a platform publicly said that, you know what, I'm fine with being a bachelor. And I can have my success as a black man. I can be successful. I can be a successful individual in the context of the United States. And I can do that without attaching myself to a Western or an American woman. Now, I like women. I like women. I'm attracted to women. I enjoy women's company. I like being with women. But being with women and marrying women and having a legal contract with women are two different things. Steve Harvey is an old school black man. And yes, this man right now is still thriving at the age of 67. He's done phenomenally well. Steve Harvey has done a phenomenally well. This guy has had multiple chances. He has fallen many times. Steve Harvey is a black man who has fallen on his face countless times. And he is one of the few black men who has been able to pick himself up after falling down. He's one of the few people, not just black men, but people. Not too many people can fall the way he's fallen in his life and pick themselves up. Not too many people can do that. There aren't lots of people who can lose millions and millions of dollars. There are not lots of people who can lose millions. I'm talking about lose millions of dollars. And then come back and get those millions back. Not too many people can do that. Including the white guys on Wall Street. Including the white guys on Wall Street. Not many people can do that. But the question I asked you brothers is who's winning? If you got to choose between Steve Harvey and Shannon Sharpe, who are you gonna choose? Which path you gonna go? Shannon Sharpe says, I'm gonna do what I want to do, and I'm gonna prosper. I'm gonna reap the benefits of my labor and all that kind of stuff. Steve Harvey is like, my whole life is dedicated to taking care of all these people who whose loyalties are questionable. You taking care of other people's children, your purpose, he sees his purpose in this world. His purpose is taking care of people who refuse or who don't take care of themselves. He doesn't place any responsibility or any burden on the people who he is sacrificing himself for. He took on this woman's children. He took on everything that was in her life. He has daughters from other relationships. And the way he tells it, they still dependent on him. This man is still working. And the way he talks, here's the thing, the way Steve Harvey talks, he plans on working until he dies. This is a man, the way he talks. This man, he talks, the way he talks. This man plans on working until the very day of his death, or he working until he dies. Because he feels like he has to work until he dies. He feels that he feels that he has to take care of people until the very end of his life. For him, that's a winning formula. For him, that's a winning formula. But we have too many. Thank you, Holt. Thank you, Holt, for that $10 cash app. Thank you, Holt, for that. Thank you. We have too many examples of men who are the opposite of Steve Harvey. Okay, guys. I didn't mean to go this long. If any one of you guys want to come up and chime in on the situation. What do you think, Steve Harvey and Steve Harvey, or Shannon Sharpe? Who's winning? Who's really winning? Steve Harvey, Shannon Sharpe. What y'all think? Y'all have seen this stuff. Everybody's talking about Steve Harvey. Everybody is talking about Steve Harvey. Everybody is talking about Steve Harvey. I had the wrong cigar. Everybody is talking about Steve Harvey. I've been watching Steve Harvey for a long time. Is he winning? Shannon Sharpe? Is Shannon Sharpe the one who's really winning? Is Shannon Sharpe radically different from Steve Harvey? Does Shannon Sharpe represent something that is radically different from Steve Harvey? We got Black Lyra in the house. What's going on, brother?
What's good, man? How's my audio?
I can hear you loud and clear, man.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, this is great for the Black manosphere to really see this type of interaction between two really successful men, but still you see one of them within the gynocratic mindset, and it transcends social class.
There you go. Talk to us, man.
Yeah. So I'm 27, so I'm a younger cat.
Yeah, that's fine. We want to hear from you young guys. I want to hear what you young guys think, because these are old men. These are older men talking to the world. You know, you got a man who's married, who's from a different generation, who, you know, old school. You got well, they both old guys. Well, and you got, you know, a single guy, but they're both super successful. Okay, they're super successful. They represent your proverbial high value men. Okay. Yeah. And let me say this. Remember, guys, for you younger guys, the one thing I want to say this, man. So it takes Black men. I want to say this. Now, I didn't say this earlier. It takes Black men longer to develop and to get to a certain place of status than any other group of men, especially white men. You know what I'm saying? So if it takes a certain white male to become a millionaire at the age of 30, okay, it might take his counterpart, who was Black male, the age of 40 or 42 to become a millionaire. Okay. And I'm just giving you you know, this is not scientific, but I'm just saying that it takes us longer to reach certain markers of success than everybody else, because of stuff that we can't control. Yeah. Anyway, I don't want to go ahead, man, and talk to us, man.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for outlining that. So, you know, as a younger cat, I'm happy about this, because it really just shows us. And if you're open to soaking up the game, you're definitely gonna get a lot of game from analyzing that. So, like I was mentioning before, how, you know, that gynocratic social order, it transcends class. So it doesn't necessarily matter how successful you become. If you still have that mindset to where you're pedestalizing and prioritizing the woman in your life, it's going to cost you a lot, one, and it's going to be detrimental to your own success. You know, Steve Harvey is an outlier, right? He's super successful, but we have plenty of other folks that aren't as successful, that are getting those child support hits and those alimony hits, and it's digging a lot deeper in their pockets than a Steve Harvey. So this is just a great example of how, that mindset and that socialization, it transcends your class, and it can have a profound effect no matter where you are economically.
Oh, that is an awesome point, man. And the thing is that, oh my God, who was that? Yeah. Because O'Shea New Jackson did a video on Steve Harvey recently about this type of stuff,
Uh-huh.
and the thing is, O'Shea Jackson did something on the celebrity junk on this whole thing, and talking about some of these issues, and
Mm-hmm.
and I commented that money money is not a solution to this gynocratic problem or the gynocratic
Yeah.
impact, the gynocratic psychology. Yeah, so basically, it doesn't matter how much money you have. If you still have that programming, if you have not liberated yourself from that programming, you're going to be a victim of that programming. And the difference between Steve Harvey and the regular guy, as you indicated, is that he has more money, and
So
he
he
got
got
more
that
he got
cushion,
he got more
he's
cushion to,
okay.
yeah, he got more cushion to fall on. You know what I'm saying? Whereas the regular guy, he ain't got that cushion. He doesn't have the room to make these kind of bad decisions or to be influenced by this stuff that would lead to bad decisions and to lead to
Mm-hmm.
counterproductive behavior in
Yeah.
relationship to the gynocracy. You know what I'm saying? So no, you are absolutely right. So
And
much.
there's
Yeah.
another point I want to
Go
touch
ahead. Go
on
ahead.
too.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
His and it doesn't even matter, it's almost the woman doesn't even matter, because his first wife was securing that bag with his accountant, and she was just a normal broad. So you're thinking to yourself, okay, this man made a lot of money. You came up with him, and you think as a wife you'd want to secure that for long term. But this chick was like, nah, let me secure this bag on my own and dip. So it's like, okay, you can't really win if you even come up with the broad. So you need to protect your assets and really operate in these relationships from a position of power as a black male, because the odds are just stacked against you, even with your own woman.
Even with your own woman. Yeah. Yeah. And and what's crazy is that this guy, I talked about venture capitalism early on. This guy
Mm-hmm.
took another risk with this woman he's with right now. Okay. He took another
Yeah.
risk. And even though, I mean, they've been together more than a decade now and what have you, but it was still a risk. You're still risking your future and everything. You know what I'm saying? And you don't know, and he says in this interview, he was like, I completely trust her. He said this. He said this. This is like this is the first woman who I can completely trust and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like,
Is
man,
the coochie is the coochie that good? Damn.
that's what I'm saying. You know what I mean? And I'm like, you are really a sucker for love. This guy is a real sucker for love. And he's still vulnerable. A guy like that is still vulnerable, for
Mm-hmm.
being devastated late in life. You know what I mean? Late in life. You know what I mean? Okay, he's 6 to 7 years old, um, and I know she's an older woman and everything like that. But man, the way these chicks move, man, across the age spectrum, you can't sleep on nobody, bro. you you got to keep your eyes open on.
It's crazy, man. And I'm taking this in as a young cat, and
Take it in.
that type of culture, it seems like it's generational for our women. This is not just something that happened before. It's still perpetuating even in my generation. So like I'm in Atlanta, so like all
Yeah,
the black women that I encounter,
yeah,
I'm thinking, okay, if I get serious with this chick, will she fuck me over? That is in the back of my head when I'm first meeting chicks, and that's one of the main
man.
markers. Okay, could does she have the capacity to completely fuck me
Yeah,
over if something goes
yeah,
down?
yeah.
And if she passes, then I think she's stable enough. If not, then I'm just moving. Keeping it pushing.
I want to ask you this question, man. From
Yeah.
your vantage point, man. I mean, what do you see? I mean, because the concern is there. And it's very real, man. Are you scared? I mean, how bad is it, man? From in terms of, I want to get it from your, you're 27,
Yeah.
man. I'm gonna be 50, in September and all that kind of stuff, man. From your standpoint and what you're encountering, man.
Hmm.
How hell, I'm gonna put it out here, man. How scared are you? You
Yeah,
know what
that's
I'm
it.
saying in terms of dealing with these women, who are your age and even younger. You know what I'm saying? Man, talk to the brothers, man.
Hmm.
Help educate the guys, the younger guys who are listening, who are your age and younger, man. What's going on your end, man?
Yeah, I think someone who is really good at communicating the importance of protecting yourself is Coach Greg Adams. Now,
Okay.
I'm not going monk mode because I
Yeah.
still
Oh
like
yeah.
women,
Oh yeah.
but
Oh yeah. Yeah.
you have to come at a vantage point of, okay, I need to put myself first, because as a black man, particularly, you don't have a system backing you. You don't have your friends and family backing you if you get accusations or if something goes down. Some people may, but generally speaking, you won't. So you really have to put yourself on your back and make sure, okay, I'm in these romantic situations where I can still operate in a way that I'm not putting too much in to where I can lose a lot. It's kind of like gambling, right? You don't want to put too much money down because you are at a higher chance of losing as a black man
There
in
you
the
go.
United States specifically.
There you go. There you go. There you go, man.
So one thing that's huge for y'all out there, you gotta kind of see their family life. So if the someone you're dating was raised by a single parent, that's a generally a red flag. Particularly if they're raised by their moms, that's definitely a red flag for me.
Yeah.
But you also just really have to be able to gauge someone's personality and their temperament. I think guys are really overlooked at because of the opportunity of sex, but you really have to gauge a woman's temperament. That's gonna give you more information on how she is. And if you feel comfortable enough, you just take it slower than you ideally would, just because you want to cover your tracks.
Hmm. Hmm. Now, here's the
So yeah,
question I
that's
want to.
that's
I
that's
want to. What I want to ask you, man, as a younger guy, man.
yeah.
Are you encountering a lot of sharks out there, man? I mean, are the sharks? You know what I'm saying?
Yo,
And the predators and
yo, yo,
the piranhas, the sharks and the piranhas, man. Are you dealing with the sharks and the piranhas, man?
man, it's wild out here. These young, attractive white women,
Hmm.
they're piranhas. Well, they're really sharks. These
Hmm.
young black women in Atlanta, because there's some really attractive young black women in Atlanta, but I mean, these women are sharks, and all you have to do is go on their Instagram, and you'll see them traveling. You'll see them doing go here, go there. Okay, you clearly have someone funding your lifestyle, so immediately you're thinking, okay, this is someone that is my type physically, but their lifestyle just doesn't match up, and you really just have to you really just have to send them to the back and, search for women that are a little bit more low key. And when you're meeting them in person, you got to make sure that they don't have any type of like serious mental issues, because women are great at hiding it. Women are great at really bypassing that. So you really have to lead with an authentic vibe. And if you don't get that type of response from a woman, then you should really just either pump and dump or just move forward.
That's good. The young guys got to be, you got to be wise and everything like that. Now, are you meeting these women in person, or you use a date? So you use social media as well, as what is in person or what?
Yeah, so I'm using dating apps. I'm using, Instagram, and then in person as well. In person is funny because you'll dating apps are, I think, pretty effective in understanding what red flags are. So you can get a good sense of what a woman's red flags are from her dating profile, and then translating that into real life is going to be a little bit different because you're there in person, you're catching a vibe, you can converse with them. But generally speaking, you have to be very on point about red flags, and you have to be open about questioning women in a way that isn't necessarily judgmental, but you want to understand their rationale for a lot of these things, so then you can assess. You have to really be effective in communicating in a non-judgmental way, so you get these chicks talking, then you can be like, okay, I really fucking with her, she's a little crazy. Or you can be like, okay, she seems a little bit more down to earth, we can kick it some more.
No, that's good. So you got to be, and I like y'all, you young guys listening to uh, Lyron. Y'all listen to him. Did I say it right, Black Lyron? And
Yes.
yeah, yeah. So the thing is, I need you guys to be analytical. I need you guys to be, and we try to do this, to be analytical. Y'all need to be scientific and methodical in terms of how y'all engage, especially when you're dealing with social media and all that kind of stuff. There's the way we do this thing today, man. You got to be like a scientist almost. You know what I mean? In terms of assessing and evaluating who that you're dealing with. You know what I mean? And you got to understand how to read language and all that, especially when you're dealing with social media and the dating apps and all that. So I get exactly what you're saying.
Yeah,
Tim
sorry, I
Harden,
froze a bit.
yeah, no problem. Tim Harden, what's going on, man?
The great Dr. Neil, how you doing this evening?
I'm
Yes,
well, man. Good
sir.
to see you, my brother. Good to see you, man. Talk to us, man. What you got to say about Steve Harvey and Shannon Sharpe, man? Who's really winning?
Man, what I'm going to say is probably what you would say as a uh, academic, is this is just a case study
There you go.
of
Bingo.
what to do and what not to do. I
What
don't
not
think
to
it's
do?
any more nuanced than that. And it's sobering, and it's almost unreal because you're like, man, is a guy his Steve's age and his stature, what he's been through, surely he cannot be this, I don't know, gullible. I
Gullible.
guess
Still three
best
times.
way
The
to put
third
it.
marriage. The third marriage, man.
Third marriage, and you still talking about how great and deep the love is with the excuse me, trap queen
Queen.
of all people. I'm like, man, and so I only thing while you were talking, I'm on the move, going to check on my mom. So I said, man, I
Yeah.
gotta call in. You just say what, reiterate, and maybe put it in a little.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
you can use that and say, hey, man, this is just a case in living color. We see two men sitting across from each other, and it's really just a case study here. This is the I guess you can even use the Matrix analogy. Which pill would you take?
Oh my God. Which pill? Absolutely. It's like, and Steve was like the guy who decided to, he took the blue pill. He's like, I'm going to stay. I want to stay in the matrix. I want to stay here, and it's easier to stay here and more attractive to stay here, um, than being on the other side.
Yeah, yeah, man. It's like I said, it was almost like, man, you couldn't script this any better. And what I mean for us observing, us trying to learn how to navigate or whatever in this in our current environment, socially, romantically, financially. I'm like, man, this is just a case of what not to do.
What
Now,
not to?
I pray it does not go bad for Steve. He's too
Yeah.
old to try to recover
Oh man.
at 70 years old. And I'm glad you brought that up a few minutes ago. I was hopping in the car and I was like, oh man, I gotta commend Dr. Neal on that. I was like, man, you've had three shots at the apple, and you came up a winner on the last run, man. The last thing you should be doing is just no. Hey, I don't know Marjorie personally, obviously, but who would take that kind of bet? So just hoping that doesn't go bad. But I think we
Just
can
hope.
see, hey man, as we say, as brothers say, man, don't take penitentiary chances. And I kind of look at it in that vein, man. That's
And that's what you're doing. I mean, and this guy, and here's the thing, Steve Harvey, I just really think he's been extraordinarily lucky, man. He's been extraordinarily lucky, and and not to take anything from his talent. He's a talented guy. He's good at what he does and everything
right.
like that. But this guy has had chance after chance. It's like, you know, winning and losing at the casino. You know what I'm saying? And in his latter years, he's got more wins than losses. You know what I mean? And so, but he's still gambling.
Man, Dr. Neal, and so, he's obviously quite a bit older than I am. I'm about 5 years older than you are.
Yeah,
And I remember you may or may not remember this. When he got started in comedy,
yeah.
he lived in Dallas for a while. And I'm from Dallas.
Well,
And he had a club. We've been talking about this all day. I remembered it. He had a club. He had a comedy club. That's when the comics were hot here and said in entertaining. It was called Buku Rays, and it went under much like the whole situation with his marriage,
look at that.
mismanagement, bad managers. So
Mismanagement.
yeah, and I remember once he got back. He did an interview when he with somebody, I can't remember who it was, but when he came out with the Steve Harvey show. Remember that? And he was like, "Man, I'll never do that again." The whole opening up a club and trying to, and that era. The reason why I brought that up, that was before the Kings of Comedy.
Before the Kings, yeah.
So he had success with that, and I'm like, yeah, he's got he's either got a rabbit's foot in his pocket that's golden, or he's just a glutton for punishment. I don't know.
Got to be.
It's one of the cases.
It could be both. You know what I'm
This is
saying?
like I said, that looking at that image, and I had to go back and look at that the video. I'm like, man, this is really. It would be a good movie trailer. What to do, what not to do.
What not to do, and I would say it's a movie more about what not to do, what not to do. You know what I'm saying? And it's like he is not, and it's funny because over the last several years, there have been certain corporations and business interests that have used this story to talk about success and failure and stuff like that. And it's like
Right.
he's not the best example in terms of failure and success. Now you can learn some stuff about failure and success from him, but
Right.
I mean, it ain't like that. It's not like he's someone who's made like calculated decisions, right? It's one thing to fail, right? When you
Right.
study everything, when you have all the strategies, when you've done all the homework and preparation. You know what I'm saying? It's one thing to fail when
Right.
you have given it all and you have tried to cover all the bases. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
it's another thing to fail when you're just playing it by ear. You know what I'm
Oh man,
saying? And
that's
everything is by ear. You know what I mean? And the way much of his career has gone is that he's played a lot of stuff by ear. You know, and it's
yeah.
just like stuff was
Yeah.
just thrown at him.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't. Yeah, a lot of his success
Yeah.
is
And
not about.
I want to bring this point. Go ahead.
Yeah. A lot of his, a lot of so Steve, a lot of Steve Harvey's success is not about strategy. It's not about strategy, man. You know what I'm saying? A lot of his success was, you know, it was luck and opportunity and stuff like that. Not about having a plan, following a plan, or trying to execute a plan or whatever. You know what I'm saying? It was like hit or miss here and there. You know what I mean? And it is only in
Right.
his latter years. So it seems
Right.
like he's a smart. He talks about. See, he was saying like. So Shannon Sharpe asked him if you could go back to any age other than 67, if you could be younger, what age would you want to be, right? And he says, I would rather be 65.
What?
and and when you think about it, it's clear that when he says, okay, I would rather be 65, it's because apparently at the point that he hit 65, he finally gets it, right? That
Right.
you need to have you need to have a plan. You need to really be about your business. You know what I mean? You
Right.
know,
Right. Right.
and that you know, and it's like he didn't go back to 50, he didn't go back to 48, anything like that. He's like 65, you know, and so that's why you're absolutely right. He's not. I can listen to what he has to say, but I would never, I would never use Steve Harvey as a case study for how a man, a black man in particular, should propel himself. Never, ever, ever.
Yes. Exactly. If I can back up just a few minutes, and I'm gonna
Go
have to
ahead.
hop off. But yeah, man, you know, I love you, love what you do, my brother.
Well, appreciate you,
For us.
brother. Yeah.
And to the, I guess maybe the social slash dating mating part that you brought up, and that was
Yeah.
masterful in the way you put it. Um, I what and the reason why I said that, man, that would make a good movie trailer, having that picture of them sitting across from each other. Remember, Shannon hadn't been too long ago. You know, he got a lot of flack for saying, "Hey, uh, brothers, you know, the long and short of it, you know, they were getting on him about dating white women,
Yeah.
I believe."
Yeah. Yeah.
And he was like, "Hey, man, brothers, you know, do what was his whole premise was do what's best for you. You know, I
Yeah.
date who I want to date."
Yeah.
And so we were, I think we kind of couched it then 5 or 6 months ago as, you know, SYSBM.
That's why it's
And,
yeah.
and then to your left, to your right, if we're looking at the screen, you're looking at a man. Steve was very, and I believe it was, you mentioned Pink Book earlier.
That's the big book. Uh-huh.
Yeah, she said it that she made the point that he was quite animated about his making the point that, you know, his man's job to take care of wife and kids. And we're like, well, wait a minute, you're not even taking care of kids that are yours.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
at your age, all of these, what I thought about, all these children are grown, and he talked about the animosity that the kids are having between each other. So it's not even in his quote unquote ideal
Yeah. Yeah.
situation. It's not ideal for anybody, basically.
Yeah, because
You know,
it says a whole lot. You know, and we've talked about the whole situation with stepdaddies and all that kind of stuff.
right.
And it was clear that the stepdaddy thing didn't work for him.
Exactly.
It at the very even before he married his woman Marjorie. That the children, you know, on both sides they were like, we can't do this. You know what I'm
That's
saying?
right. Yeah.
Yeah. So you already got internal conflict. You understand what I'm saying? You
Right.
know,
Right. Yeah.
and then what he does the, you know, the macho bravado thing, the manly masculine thing is like, you know, this is my life and this is my relationship. Y'all got to get with the program. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. It was. Yeah. That's that whole clapping the hands and performative. That was I hadn't thought of that. That was bravado. Uh. To I guess to prove the point that hey, I'm the rudder on this ship, and
Yeah.
clearly somebody else is holding, or she is holding the purse strings. I think someone even mentioned today, I don't know what a podcast, that hey, you know,
Mm-hmm.
Lori has I don't know. It really sounds weird. Threatened, you know, hey, you know, if you don't support me, and I believe she meant financially, she wasn't going to have anything to do with it. And I'm like, man, yeah, come on, man.
That's
I,
it, man.
yeah, that's a level of sympathy. You know, if that is pans out to be true, that makes it even worse. And
That's
so,
it.
you know, all the
Mm-hmm.
bravados for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, And like I said, I hope it doesn't, man, especially this stage in his life, man. I didn't realize he was
7.
67.
Yeah,
Oh,
man.
man, 3 years from 70. You know,
3
this
years of
past
70.
retirement.
And
Yeah,
he's already
past
talking about
retirement age.
he's got health issues already. He got health issues. He didn't go into detail about the health issues, but he got health issues. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
you know,
Oh,
you can't keep up that pace. You know, because he's been a workhorse all his life. You know what I mean?
right,
And why?
right,
Here's the thing, man. What's the use if you are a super millionaire? Why are you gonna work yourself into a grave, man? You know what I'm saying? I mean, what you got? I mean, at what point? Because he's a guy who's used to working like 7 days a week. You know what I mean?
right,
That's an old model. I don't care, even though you know we know about people who retired, right? You know they retire at
right,
65 or 66. They might get them a part-time job at work at Walmart. You know what I'm saying? You know, just as
right.
a you're a greeter. You're a greeter at Walmart.
Exactly.
That ain't that ain't that ain't no real work, right? But you're just
Right.
doing that. You're just
You're
doing
keeping
that
yourself
to
busy.
you're keeping yourself busy, man. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
like, dude. When I'm 70 years old, man, I don't want to be working like I'm in my 30s. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to
Exactly.
be
Exactly. I was going to
work.
say that's a young man's game. A
Yeah, you know what I'm
young
saying?
man's game.
Why are you gonna be 70 years old and you working 7 days a week, man? You know what I'm saying? I mean, what kind of
That
that don't
makes
make no
sense.
sense. And you're supposed to
And
have
you're a
money and all
millionaire.
this kind of stuff. You're a millionaire. What is that? I gotta take
Makes
care of, I
absolutely
gotta
no
take
sense.
care of women and children. That is ridiculous. Grown people
Completely.
now, grown. They grown. They grown now.
There you go. Grown, as we say in the South, grown behind jokers.
Grown.
Yeah. So, yeah, man. So, yeah, I just wanted to add that. I'm gonna hop off. I
Oh
gotta
man,
go
appreciate
in
you,
here and
man.
check in on my mother, man.
No, I
Man, I
appreciate you.
always love what you do, man. I'm always
Appreciate you,
gonna
man.
support you.
Appreciate the support,
And
my brother.
not,
Yes, sir.
keep
Yes,
doing
sir,
what you're
man.
doing, man.
I will do,
All right,
man.
I'm gonna
Thanks,
drop
man.
off, man.
Good to see you, man. Take care. All right.
Uh,
Yeah. So yeah. That's it, guys. You don't want to reach that level, guys. You don't want to reach that level of so-called success. You don't want to reach that level of so-called success, and you still working 7 days a week. You are working, 80 hours a week. I mean, what? Come on now. You, and you done gone through all these millions. You done made all these millions of dollars, and you still got this grind like you. That's ridiculous. And what drives it's not just the fact that you want to work or you feel like you need to work. It's not just because you need to stay busy. It's because you feel like you got to take care of the whole doggone world. This is crazy, guys. This is crazy. This is an obsolete. This is an obsolete vision of what it means to be a man in general and what it means to be a black man in particular. It's just obsolete and it doesn't work. And that is what Steve Harvey is selling, is trying to sell all of us. That we got to work, if you become super successful like him and make all this kind of money, that you got to work until you die. Because you're trying to please a whole bunch of people, man. That's crazy. Thank you, Tim Howard. My man Tim Howard is in the house. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you, my guy. Y'all share, y'all like, subscribe, and this is the Man Professor broadcast, guys. But I wanted to come out here and yeah, and that's why we have the passport. That's why we have the passport movement, guys. Y'all see that passport? You flying out of here. We flying out of here. That's why I had to come on out here. Because Shannon Sharpe and Steve Harvey represent two different ends of a spectrum that we have dealt with in our space. Shannon Sharpe and Steve Harvey, they are a spectrum, okay? And in this space, we have been very critical of the side that Steve Harvey is on. Very, very, very critical. You understand? And, I was tempted to call him a simp. I was tempted to use that language. But I said, you know what? I'm not gonna call him a simp. I'm not gonna call him a simp. It's easy to call Steve Harvey a simp. It's easy. It's easy. It's very easy. And does he fit into the mold of what we call a simp? Yes, he does. He does. He does. But it's too easy to do that. I think that we need to analyze guys like this. I want, and that's why I came here, because we need to analyze this person and what he said. Because if you all have not seen that Shannon Sharpe video, y'all check it out or what have you. And I'm gonna say this: this is an obsolete. This is an obsolete model of black manhood. So the question, who's really winning? I don't think he's winning. I don't care how much money he got. I don't care how much money he got. If I got to choose between the Shannon Sharpe and the Steve Harvey, I'm going to go with Shannon Sharpe. Especially right now in 2023. Not going to do what Steve Harvey is doing. He's an old school black man. He is an obsolete model. He's like, this is 2023. And people are talking about, chat PT, whatever it's called, chat PT. We have new technologies. We have new technologies that are on the scene right now. We have new AI technologies that are on the scene. We have new technologies that are emerging on the scene, AI technologies that are about to replace everything that we know. Do you guys hear me? We have new technologies on the scene right now. Communication, chat, what do they call it? Chat PT, or whatever they call it, chat PT and all that kind of stuff. We have new artificial intelligence technologies that are replacing everything that we know. Steve Harvey is the technological equivalent of a VCR, a video cassette recorder. He is the technological equivalent of a VCR and VHS tapes. VCR is the equivalent of a landline phone. Some of you guys are too young to even know what a landline phone is, to have a phone that's hooked up to a house. Some of you guys have grown up with nothing but cellular telephones. Cellular telephones. Some of you guys, you've grown up with all you know are cell phones. Steve Harvey is the technological equivalent of a typewriter. Some of y'all don't even know, y'all too young to know what a typewriter is. A typewriter. Steve Harvey is the technological equivalent of a cassette tape. He is a technological equivalent of an 8-track tape. Steve Harvey is analog. He's not digital. We talk about the digital world. Steve Harvey is not digital. Steve Harvey is analog. Look what I got. This is an old, y'all ever see this? This is Mary J. Blige. This is old school. You see this here? Y'all see this? This is a cassette tape. When was the last time you seen a cassette tape, guys? You see this right here? This is when this was back in the days when I listened to Mary J. Blige. You see this? I got a whole. I'm an archivist. I'm a scholar. I hold on to stuff. I hold on to stuff. This is the analog. Analog right here, man. I come from the analog era, man. This is analog. In the analog era, we had cassette tapes. That was the analog era. This is retro. Retro. You see that? Mary J. I don't listen to Mary J anymore. 25 years ago, 25 years ago, I used to play Mary J. I liked Mary J. Blige's music 25 years ago. 25 years ago, I listened to Mary J. Blige. I don't listen to Mary J. Blige. This analog, man. This analog. I don't listen to Mary J. Blige. Share my world, man. I don't listen to this analog. And if I do listen to her, I put her in context. I put her in context. Mary J. Blige can walk in front of me right now and I wouldn't blink an eye. Mary J. Blige, she can walk in front of me, she can walk in front of me right now and I would not blink an eye. She's just another human being. 25 years ago, 30 years ago, 30 years ago, I was like, what's up, Mary J? What's going on, Mary? Let's holler at me. I want to holler at Mary J 30 years ago. That was 30 years ago. I want to holler at Mary J. She old school. She obsolete. You put her on the shelf. You understand? Analog, retro. That's it. That's retro. That's they're retro. If I had a son, I'm going on 50, man. If I had a 20-something-year-old son, my son in my early 20s, in his early 20s, if I had a son who was in his early 20s, I would say, son, you better not listen to Steve Harvey. I tell my son that. I say, son, whatever you do, do not listen to Steve Harvey. Do not listen to him whatsoever. I say, you will not win by listening to Steve Harvey. You're not gonna win, bro. That's what I would tell my son. That's what I would tell my son. You're all right, Cortez. Analog simping. Analog. We are in a different world right now. Shannon Sharpe, he may be 57 years old. Shannon Sharpe, and I have some disagreements with Shannon Sharpe. I don't share everything. Shannon still Shannon got the red in him. He got the crimson cure. Shannon Sharpe got the crimson cure now. That's why he ain't married. Shannon Sharpe, he got that crimson cure. And I like Shannon Sharpe because Shannon Sharpe talks mainly to black men on his channel. That's what I like. Shannon Sharpe, if you really look at him, he's very sophisticated. If you really look at Shannon Sharpe's channel, Club Shay Shay, is really a men's channel. Club Shay Shay is a men's channel. He's not a part of the black manosphere. He's not a part of a so-called mass radio at large, but Shannon Sharpe's channel is really a men's channel because he only talks to men, and he talks about these, and they're mainly celebrities, but he's talking to these black men about their lives. What's going on, Black Uhuru? It's good to see you, man. That's right. The phonograph, the 45. The 45. That's it. The 45. Steve Harvey is the last of a dying breed. He is the last of a dying breed. Steve Harvey is a dinosaur. He's a dinosaur. A dinosaur. And these young guys out here are smart for not trying to follow in the tracks or the path of dinosaurs. No dinosaurs. That's it. Anywho, guys, yeah, man. Them landlines bring back memories, man. Them landlines. Remember them landline phones? I have some good memories on the landline phones, bro. I used a lot of pimping. I did a lot of pimping on them landline phones. Them landline phones. Remember them landline phones? Because we didn't have Facebook. We didn't have Facebook. We didn't have Instagram. We had to talk to people. We had to actually get their phone numbers in real time and all that kind of stuff. We had to do that in real time. Joy called it chat. Jay called it chat GPT. That's it. This is the era that we're in right here now, guys. We are in the chat GPT era. This is the era that we're in. This is the era that we're in right now. This is the era that we're in. Chat GPT. This is the era that we're in. Chat GPT. This is the era that we're in right now. And we got to leave the dinosaurs in the past. Anyway, guys, I've been up here for over 2 hours, almost 2.5 hours. But I wanted to speak to this since everybody is talking about Steve Harvey. Since everybody is talking about Steve Harvey. And I've been watching. Here's the thing, guys. I've been keeping an eye on Steve Harvey for years. I've been watching him for years and years and years and years. And it should be obvious why. I'm here in this black manosphere. We talk about black men's issues, and he has said a lot about black men in relationships. He has said a lot about black men in general. He's an old school black man. He represents something that I have seen. I have recognized what he has talked about in my life. I've recognized that. I've encountered men like him and men like his father in my lifetime. I knew men like this. So I'm going on 50 years old. So I'm old enough to know what Steve Harvey comes from. I'm old enough to know to understand it, okay? And I know that there are a lot of women. There are a lot of women who want black men to remain. There are a lot of women who want black men to remain married to the type of manhood that Steve Harvey represents. A lot of women, they want black men to remain slaves to that old, dilapidated, obsolete model of manhood. But in this space, we are burying that model of manhood. We are bringing that model of manhood to an end. We bury it and put it in the past. Anyway, guys, I'm about to get up out of here, man. I'm about to get up out of here, my brothers. Good to see you all. I will look for you guys on the next broadcast. I am the Mad Professor. Y'all know what time it is. Maybe the next time I see y'all, I might not have my drink. The next time I see y'all, I might not have my smoke. Ain't no guarantee though. Ain't no guarantee though. But I keep it live. We'll see you guys. You all take care. The Mad Professor is signing off. Peace and blessings, my brother. Cheers to you guys.